Yes, it's time for my Wednesday full season review. What's up, April here, and welcome back to The Struggle Is Real, my YouTube channel where I do movie and TV reactions and reviews, all for your viewing pleasure. And also mine. Today I'll be recapping and reviewing season 1 of Netflix's Wednesday. Now, if you haven't seen all of the season yet, then I implore you.
Look away, child. Look away!
But if you have, then let's just jump right into it. So at the beginning of season 1, it's revealed that there is a monster that is terrorizing both the students of Nevermore Academy and the outside town of Jericho. But throughout the season, Principal Weems, who is played by Gwendolyn Christie, goes out of her way to make sure that no one really knows that it's a monster and writes off that people of the town and students of the school are not being viciously murdered or attacked, but are being injured by some other means or not injured at all. Now we realize that she's able to get away with this because Principal Weems is a shapeshifter. So at the beginning of the show, for the first kid that was murdered, she basically turns into him and makes it seem like he left the school scot-free, when in actuality there definitely was a monster murdering people all throughout the entire season. Now over the course of the season, Wednesday ends up getting some new friends and making some new enemies, rebuffing and also giving into a couple of interests. One of those is Xavier, whose artistic talents in having his paintings come to life come back and bite him in such a way that Wednesday believes that he is actually the monster. And another is Tyler, a normie from the town of Jericho who helps her in most of her times of need and believed her when she said that the monster was real. Now, I'm gonna be honest with you, I had my suspicions on who I thought the monster was over the course of the season, and I thought it was Tyler. I felt that way for a couple reasons. One, it's revealed in this season that Tyler's mother is gone. She's not there anymore. It's not really talked about why or where she's at. She's just not there anymore, and Tyler's going to therapy to talk about it. Now, his father, who's the sheriff, also doesn't want to talk about the mother either, and he has this very strong prejudice not only against Wednesday and her father Gomez, but also against the school in general of Nevermore Academy because it houses students that are not human. And I personally felt like that prejudice was coming from a place of maybe his wife being of that vocation. And you know what? When we get to the end of the season, we find out that's pretty much the case. So Tyler's mom is actually a Hyde, which in the vein of kind of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde is a person that turns into a monster uncontrollably and they kind of, murder people sometimes. Or maybe they just go wild. Either way, Tyler's mom was definitely that. And it is revealed that, spoiler alert, Tyler is also a Hyde. And Wednesday doesn't find out that Tyler is the monster until she gives in to her teenage desires and finally decides to stop rebuffing all of his advances and kisses him. And that's when, guess what? She has a vision and she finds out that Tyler is in fact the Hyde that she's been chasing all along. Now mind you, that's after she totally accused Xavier for about most of the season and got him arrested, and he's in prison. So womp womp to that. It's also revealed that Tyler is not in fact acting alone, as it turns out that the one and only Christina Ricci, who I'm gonna be honest, I also knew that she was behind something, because they're not just gonna put her in the show for just, kicks and giggles. I knew that she was either the villain or something. She was behind something, and she was. So it's revealed that she is actually the daughter of the Gates family, which is the sister of the guy that Gomez and Morticia accidentally murdered way back in the day. And she came back to the town to basically exact vengeance on all of those people that ended up getting her brother murdered. She's also a fanatic that wants all freaks and non-humans to basically die and be eradicated off of the earth, just like the original founder of the town, Joseph Crackstone, did. So look at that. And so she uses Tyler in her plans as the Hyde to kill a bunch of people and collect the body parts, very specific body parts from the victims, so that she can use it to resurrect Joseph Crackstone and bring him back to exact revenge on the town. But to do that, she actually needs Wednesday's help, which is the reason why Wednesday actually made it all the way to the end of the season as unscathed as one might, because Wednesday's ancestor, Goody Adams, actually condemned Joseph Crackstone to a fiery pit of hell, and the only way that he could technically be resurrected was with a descendant of Goody Adams. So Christina Ricci uses Wednesday's blood to bring back Joseph Crackstone. He wreaks havoc on the school and tries to kill a bunch of people, and all of the friends unite together to save the day. Enid, who is Wednesday's roommate, who is also a werewolf, but she hasn't wolfed out yet. She's having some adolescent issues that are keeping her from fully transforming into her werewolf self, comes into play at the very last moment when she wolfs out and saves Wednesday's life from Tyler, who literally turned into the Hyde at that that exact same moment. Furthermore, Bianca, who spent a good deal of the season also being Wednesday's nemesis, came in clutch at the last minute as well and saved Wednesday from being murdered by Joseph Crackstone. And in a turn of events, Eugene, who was hospitalized after being attacked by the Hyde at the end of episode 4, also comes into play and uses his beautiful beehive, beehive, to save Wednesday when Mrs. Thornhill is about to shoot Wednesday. So it turns out that having friends actually makes a difference, because if Wednesday didn't have a little bit of friends, she definitely would have gotten murdered several times over the course of the season. And of course, the sheriff finally accepts that his son is the one that's been murdering people the entire time, and that he might need help, more help than his therapist could provide, since he murdered the therapist as well. Also, as Wednesday gets closer and closer to finding out who the Hyde is, and also who the Gates daughter is, which she incorrectly guesses is the therapist right before the therapist gets murdered, she goes to the old Gates family home with Enid and Tyler, and strangely enough, the Hyde shows up. And you know who else shows up? Xavier, which further leads Wednesday to believe that he is possibly the Hyde. And it puts her suspicions of Tyler being the Hyde to the side when Tyler gets injured by the Hyde and Xavier shows up immediately after. Now, to me, Tyler getting injured by the Hyde was super suspicious, and that literally confirmed to me that he, in fact, was the Hyde. But that's just me. I'm looking at all the clues that are given to me. I could be by myself in that, but who knows. The season concludes with Wednesday obviously finding out who the Hyde is, Tyler being carted away to possibly a mental institution. Who knows? Because in the very last scene of the show, he definitely seems to be busting out of that truck that he's in. Wednesday and Bianca are now on cool terms. Wednesday actually hugs Enid, so I guess having a roommate does have its perks. And Xavier gives Wednesday a phone with his number in it, which is quite forward, and God bless to him for just, being her punching bag over the entire course of the season and still not giving up hope. You gotta love it. But shortly after Xavier gives Wednesday that phone, she gets a text message from a suspicious number saying, "I'm watching you." And clearly that's where season 2 is gonna go, because obviously someone wants to get rid of her. So that part. But then also, how did they get her number that fast? Like, I thought about that the moment the show ended. He just gave her that phone, and like 2 seconds later when she gets in the car and she's on her way home with Lurch, someone texts her. I don't imagine that she gave her number out that quickly. All I can guess is that someone walked past Xavier and cloned his phone and somehow got the number. Like, I just have so many questions. Like,
Who's sending the messages?
maybe I'm overthinking, but that just didn't make any sense to me. So with the season being over, I'm pretty sure based on not only how the season ended, but also as much acclaim as the show's gotten thus far from fans, that the show is definitely going to get a season 2. Now with that in mind, there were some issues that I did have with this season in terms of character portrayals as the season went on, and some characters in general. So initially in my episode 1 review of Wednesday, which you can find right up there, I said that the portrayals of both Gomez, Adams, and Pugsley were a little bit lacking. Their characters seemed a little bit weak for me, and yeah, it did not get better. Gomez and Pugsley return in episode 5 for Family Day, in which Wednesday finds out that Gomez and Morticia were responsible for the murder of this kid when they were going to school years ago. And that gives Gomez, Morticia, and Pugsley a little bit more screen time during that episode. Now, to me, that was unfortunate, because I was hoping when the rest of the Addams family reappeared in the remainder of this season that the characters would be a little bit more developed, but unfortunately that was not the case. Gomez was still extremely muted. His character was just lacking any sense of life, and it almost made me sad, to be honest, because he's such an iconic character that's just so joyful and zany, and they just made him so, I don't even know what they made him. They made him a sad, like he was just a sad. No, that's not true. They made Pugsley a sad, because the portrayal of Pugsley in this show was just, he was just like a whiny, sad baby, and that has nothing to do with the actor of Pugsley, and that has nothing to do with the actor who's playing Gomez. These are all creative choices that the showrunner Tim Burton is making with these characters, and to me that's really unfortunate, because obviously you have a characterization of these characters characters that do already exist. And obviously this is a new show, so you're going to change things up, but the changes that were made for those two characters were just really, really unfortunate. And it almost felt like for the male characters in the Addams family, whether that be Gomez or Pugsley or even Uncle Fester, who was played by Fred Armisen, who appeared in episode 7, his portrayal of Uncle Fester was okay, but Fred Armisen as an actor is really, really out there, and I felt like he definitely could have crushed Uncle Fester if that was the direction that he was given. But obviously it was kind of played down a little bit, and I'm wondering if these were creative choices or if this is the direction that the actors wanted to go in. I feel like it's definitely not the latter. I feel like it's the former, and the reason I feel that way is because it almost seems like, to me anyway, that a lot of the male characters in the show took a back seat for the female characters to really thrive. And to me that's sad. I feel like there doesn't have to be a compromise in character development just so one character can shine. I mean, it's Wednesday's show. She's the main character, but you do have all of these other secondary characters that are absolutely amazing. You see her roommate Enid's character develop over the course of the season as she's, you know, dating this Gorgon, and their relationship is developing and she's having issues with her family, with her not wolfing out. You have Xavier getting all of this pressure from his father, who we never see on screen, and I'm pretty sure with season 2 of the show probably going to delve more into Xavier's family history and his father, especially since his father is a psychic. I imagine that at some point Xavier is going to let Wednesday meet his father just so that Wednesday can have a better scope of her own powers. I'm calling that right now. If it's not in season 2, it might be in season 3, but I definitely feel like in season 2 Xavier is going to introduce Wednesday to his father, and that'll help her since she's a Raven. And Morticia explained in the show that there are different types of psychics and that she's not the same as Wednesday because Wednesday's visions are typically a little bit darker than hers, which I thought was very interesting. So I definitely feel like Xavier's father is going to come into play in season 2 to help Wednesday out. So even that's an interesting storyline for his character. Then we have Bianca, who it's revealed that since Bianca's a siren, her mother comes into the picture, who is a part of a cult and is using her siren powers to get more people involved in this cult and get their money and get their influence, and she wants Bianca to leave school and come help her. So all of the secondary characters in this show have very, very interesting storylines. Even Tyler, who ended up being the Hyde at the end of the day, we still don't have the entire background of his mother's story. We just know that, you know, she was also a Hyde. You don't really get into the actual dynamics of what happened between his mother and his father and why his father is so bitter. So there's so much going on with these secondary characters. I feel like that they'll be able to really get into for season 2, and that they touched on a little bit and teased a little bit in season 1, which I did like. And the storyline for season 1 with this monster and it turning out to be a Hyde and things like that, that was very interesting. I did like that storyline. And it's very obvious that with the characterization of Wednesday, since Jenna Ortega is playing a teenage version of Wednesday, this is a very different characterization than any previous Wednesday that we've seen. She's more emotive, she's a bit more talkative than previous versions, and you know, she also might want to get in there with some of the guys. So good on her for being a normal teenager and just wanting to live her life. And obviously I assume as the seasons go along with the show, and obviously the character of Wednesday gets older and Jenna Ortega also gets older, we're going to see her come into her own, basically. I mean, her father, or at least the portrayal of her father that was supposed to be and wasn't, is this very vibrant, zealous individual who's like super energetic and very passionate, and her mother is this very demure woman who exudes sexuality. And you know what? As Wednesday's character evolves, I feel like we will see bits and pieces of both of her parents. Well, at least the original versions of her parents, because if she's a mashup of her parents in this show, I don't even know what I don't know what she's gonna be, to be honest with you. Now, with that being said, there were some standout moments of the season that I absolutely loved. In episode 4, there is a school dance, and Wednesday kind of steps out of her shell and decides to dance with Tyler, who took her to the dance. Now, the dance that Wednesday does in that episode to me is so dope. Apparently, Jenna Ortega came up with that dance herself after watching old videos of goth kids dancing, and she came up with that on the spot, which I think is actually really cool. And to be honest with you, that is pretty much a dance that Wednesday would do. It's It's very, very unique and definitely showcased who she was as a person while still staying in the framework of her personality. I also like throughout the season how Wednesday and Thing's relationship was curated. Thing is pretty much her right-hand man, hand. And so he's very much instrumental in helping Wednesday solve this mystery of who is the Hyde and all these people that are getting murdered over the course of the season. Now, a very interesting part is in episode 7 when she leaves Thing back in her room in charge of guarding this book that has all of the different monsters and their explanations in it. And unfortunately, when Wednesday comes back to her room, she finds that Thing has been stabbed in the back of the hand, in the back of his hand? He's been stabbed. Now, episode 7 is also the episode where Uncle Fester's character is introduced, and because he's there, Wednesday takes Thing to Uncle Fester in hopes of reviving him, which he does. I feel like episode 7 is one of the few times in the season where you see Wednesday really emote and step outside of who she typically is, which is this stoic, logical individual, and she's just completely a wreck. Thing, who is essentially like her best friend, almost gets murdered, and she's devastated when there's a chance that Uncle Fester can't bring him back, which he ends up doing. But even so, earlier in the episode, when Wednesday actually sees Uncle Fester after the mayor's funeral, she is elated. It's one of the few times in the show that you see her smile. Actually, I think it might be the only time in the show that you see her smile, which is a nice, creepy smile, and that took me back to 1990s Wednesday, which was great. But it does show you the very different relationships that Wednesday has with the different members of her family. Uncle Fester is essentially one of her favorite people, so she would genuinely be happy and excited to see him. And Thing is like her ride or die, so when it was revealed that he almost got schmurdered, she basically lost it. I did feel like episode 7 was actually one of the stronger episodes of the season, outside of the little bit lackluster performance in regards to Uncle Fester. Overall, the episode was pretty solid because not only is that the episode where Uncle Fester does show up, Thing gets stabbed, and Wednesday pretty much accuses Xavier, and at the end of the episode, that's when she kisses Tyler and realizes that he's the Hyde. So if there's any episode that you want to check out, I would say episodes 4 with the dance and episode 7 where the shit hits the fan. Also, in the final episode of the show, Principal Weens, who is played by Gwendolyn Christie, finally believes Wednesday when she puts all the pieces of the puzzle together and realizes that Professor Thornhill is behind the entire thing and Tyler's helping her, but it's a little bit too late because Thornhill stabs Weens and Weens dies. Now, I thought that kind of sucked because I actually loved Gwendolyn Christie's character. I thought she was well used throughout the season and she really got to flex in a different role than what we've typically seen her in, which was great. And it was really unfortunate that her character was killed off at the end of the season. But since this is a show that has supernatural-esque origins, maybe she'll come back. Who knows? I mean, she is a shapeshifter. Maybe she is a twin that can shapeshift and she'll come back as someone else, or someone else will come back and shapeshift into her to make everyone feel better. I don't know. But I do feel like it was kind of a waste to kill her character off just when her character was making real strides in understanding Wednesday as a character. So I wish that wasn't the case. And then also, obviously, Christina Ricci's character also got knocked off. So at the end of the season, we lost 2 phenomenal actresses and some really good character developments as well. Now, I knew Christina Ricci's character wasn't making it into season 2 because there was no way that she was making it to season 2. But like I said, I am a little disappointed that Gwendolyn Christie's character is not going to make it into season 2 since she was schmurdered, and since the school currently has no principal, I am really interested to see who else they might bring into play to be principal in season 2. Will it be somebody else from Addams Family lore? Maybe Angelica Houston's free and she might be the new headmaster with a different name or something like that. Or maybe bring in Joan Cusack, you know, who knows? I have no idea. But it is going to be interesting to see where the show goes. Obviously, the show has stepped into the realm of being a detective show, specifically because Wednesday is writing this detective novel, and it tracks that she is detecting things over the course of the season, which essentially helps the novel write itself. I would also love for season 2 to have better characterizations of Pugsley and Gomez. The characterizations thus far, as I've already said, are just so poor and so disappointing, and I really hope that they can find some type of balance in bringing those characters to life a little bit more and not downplay them so that the other characters can kind of thrive. I don't feel like there needs to be poor characterization for some characters, for other characters to have their moment in the sun. I don't think that you need to compromise that way, but those are creative choices and who knows where season 2 is gonna go. All I can do is sit here and speculate wildly as one does. Anywho, thanks so much for joining me for this Wednesday season 1 recap and review. If you you've liked this video, please be sure to give it a thumbs up. If you want to see more videos like this, be sure to hit that subscribe button, as I do TV and movie reactions and recaps all the time, specifically this month in December, because it's the season that just keeps on giving. And if you want to see my episode 1 review of Wednesday, spoiler free, I promise, it'll also be down in the description box below. And for The Struggle Is Real, I have been April, and I'll see you real soon. Peace. I can't just that was so bad.